He had everything: power, wealth, a name that echoed through boardrooms. But every Christmas, his penthouse stayed silent. No laughter, no warmth, no family. Until one December night, when a knock on his door changed everything. But what could make a cold-hearted CEO open his heart again? And how could a single mom, struggling just to survive, teach him what love really means? Stay with me till the end, because this story might just melt your heart too. And if you love stories that give you hope, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hopeful Stories, where every tale reminds you that second chances are real. Snow painted the city in silver that night. From his office on the 40th floor, Ethan Cross, CEO of the billion-dollar Cross Enterprises, watched as people hurried home with gifts tucked under their arms. The world glowed with laughter, music, and love, but not for him. His desk was clean, his phone silent, his heart heavy. Every Christmas was the same. A night that reminded him not of joy, but of what he had lost. 10 years ago, Christmas was his favorite day. It was the day his wife, Lily, would bake gingerbread cookies while their little girl, Emma, decorated the tree. He could still hear her giggles echoing through their old home. But one snowy night, one careless driver changed everything. A phone call, a crash, and just like that, both were gone. Since then, Christmas had become a ghost that haunted him. The city lights reflected on the glass as Ethan whispered to no one, "Merry Christmas, Lily." His voice broke. He turned away from the window, loosening his tie, forcing himself to finish another empty report, anything to distract himself. That's when it happened. A faint sound echoed from the hallway outside his office. A soft knock, then another. He frowned. No one ever came here on Christmas Eve. He checked his watch. It was nearly midnight. Probably the janitor, he thought. But when he opened the door, he found a woman standing there, shivering, holding a little boy wrapped in a thin coat. "I'm so sorry to bother you," she said, her voice trembling. "I work at the cafe downstairs. The power went out and my son's sick. I didn't know where else to go." Her eyes were tired but kind, her clothes simple but neat. The boy clung to her, coughing softly. Ethan hesitated. He wasn't used to surprise visitors, especially not ones who looked so fragile. But something about her voice, maybe the desperation, maybe the honesty, made him step aside. "Come in," he said quietly. "It's warm in here." She smiled faintly, relief flooding her face. "Thank you. I'll just stay for a few minutes until it stops snowing harder." Ethan poured her a cup of coffee, unsure why he was suddenly nervous. She told him her name was Grace Miller and the boy was Lucas, 6 years old. She'd been working double shifts ever since her husband left 3 years ago. Life hadn't been kind, but she never complained. As Grace spoke, Ethan listened more closely than he had in years. Her voice carried something he'd forgotten existed: hope. Even in her struggle, she smiled when Lucas laughed, apologized when he coughed too hard, and thanked Ethan like he'd done her the greatest favor in the world. Hours slipped away, unnoticed. Grace told him how Lucas wanted to be a doctor someday, how she'd promised him that next Christmas. They'd buy a real tree instead of decorating a small plastic one. Ethan found himself smiling for the first time in years. "I used to buy a new ornament for my daughter every Christmas," he said quietly, surprising even himself. Grace looked at him, her eyes soft. "Used to?" she asked gently, and then he told her. Everything. The accident. The empty holidays. The guilt that wouldn't fade. When he finished, Grace didn't say anything for a while. She just reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "Sometimes," she said softly, "we don't stop missing the people we lost. But maybe they'd want us to keep living, not just surviving." Her words lingered in the air, gentle and true. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. Lucas had fallen asleep on the couch, his small face peaceful under the warm glow of the lamp. For the first time in a decade, Ethan didn't feel so alone. Grace stood to leave as the snow began to calm outside. "Thank you for letting us stay," she said, holding Lucas carefully. "I should get him home." Ethan nodded. "Wait." He reached into a drawer and pulled out a small snow globe. Inside, a tiny Christmas tree stood under falling, glittering snow. "For Lucas," he said. "It used to be my daughter's favorite." Grace hesitated, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't, please," Ethan interrupted gently. "It'll mean more if someone smiles because of it again." She accepted it, clutching it close. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Cross." When the elevator doors closed, Ethan stared at the empty office. It felt different, warmer somehow. The silence no longer pressed against his chest. For the first time, he whispered the words and meant them. "Merry Christmas." Outside, the snow fell softly against the glass, like the world was giving him one last chance to start over. Was it fate, or just a chance encounter meant to heal two broken hearts? You'll find out what happens next when Ethan's past and Grace's struggles collide in Chapter 2. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like this video and subscribe to Hopeful Stories for more tales of love, loss, and new beginnings. That night stayed with Ethan long after Grace and Lucas left his office. He found himself glancing at the snow globe that had once sat untouched on his shelf, now missing. For the first time in 10 years, its absence didn't hurt. It felt like it had finally found the right home. Days turned into weeks, and the world moved on after Christmas. But something inside Ethan didn't. The city seemed brighter. The people on the street didn't look like strangers anymore. He still worked long hours, still carried the scars of his loss, but the wall around his heart had cracked. And through that small crack, warmth began to seep in. One morning, while Ethan was sipping his coffee in his office, his secretary entered with a small envelope. "This came for you, sir," she said with a smile. It wasn't often that he received personal mail. The handwriting was careful but soft, written in blue ink. He opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note and a photo of a smiling little boy holding a snow globe. "Dear Mr. Cross, I just wanted to thank you again for letting us stay that night. Lucas hasn't stopped shaking the snow globe and calling it the night Christmas came early. I'm sorry for your loss. I don't know why life brings certain people together, but I think that night was meant to happen. Merry, late Christmas." Grace and Lucas Ethan stared at the picture for a long time. The boy's smile, so full of light, made something shift inside him. Without thinking twice, he reached for his phone. "Find out where this woman works," he said to his assistant softly. "Grace Miller. I think she mentioned a cafe." It didn't take long. A small corner cafe just a few blocks from the office. The next morning, Ethan walked in quietly, wearing a simple coat instead of his usual tailored suit. The smell of fresh pastries and coffee filled the air. Behind the counter, Grace was busy serving customers, her hair tied back, sleeves rolled up. She didn't notice him at first. When she finally looked up, her eyes widened. "Mr. Cross," he smiled faintly. "Ethan," he corrected. "Just Ethan today." Grace wiped her hands nervously. "You didn't have to come all the way here." "I wanted to," he said. "I wanted to thank you for reminding me that Christmas isn't about what we lose. It's about what we still have." She smiled softly. "I'm glad you think so." They sat down at a corner table, the same way they had weeks ago in his office. Lucas soon appeared from the back, his face lighting up when he saw him. "Mr. Cross, look," he said proudly, holding up the snow globe. "It still snows inside." Ethan chuckled, his heart warming. "It does," he said. "You've been taking good care of it." Lucas nodded. "Mom says we should take care of people who take care of us." Grace blushed slightly, glancing away. "Lucas," Ethan just smiled. "Your mom's a smart woman." From that day, something gentle and unspoken began between them. Ethan started stopping by the cafe every week, sometimes to grab coffee, sometimes just to talk. Grace always looked tired, but she never stopped smiling. She worked 2 jobs, helped Lucas with school, and somehow still managed to make everyone around her feel lighter. It wasn't charity or pity that brought Ethan back each time. It was connection, the kind that feels real, rare, and healing. Grace didn't treat him like the powerful CEO everyone else feared. She treated him like a man who still had a heart beating beneath the suit. One evening, as winter crept back into the city, Ethan arrived at the cafe carrying 2 small boxes. Grace looked up from the counter, curious. "What's this?" "Early Christmas presents," he said with a grin. "I figured I owe you both one." Lucas tore open his box first, a model train set, complete with tracks and a tiny station. His face lit up like the Christmas tree he'd always dreamed of. Grace hesitated before opening hers. Inside was a key. She looked up, startled. "Ethan." "What, it's for the apartment above the cafe," he said softly. "I bought the building. The rent's covered for as long as you need. Consider it a new start." Tears welled in her eyes. "Ethan, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," he said gently. "You gave me something far greater. You reminded me what it means to live again." Grace didn't speak. She just reached across the table, her hand trembling as it touched his. For a long time, they stayed that way, 2 broken souls finally beginning to heal. As Christmas approached once more, Ethan found himself doing something he never thought he would again, decorating a tree. Lucas helped hang the ornaments, while Grace hummed a soft tune from the kitchen. Laughter filled the room, wrapping around Ethan like a warm blanket. When the final ornament was placed, a small glass snow globe at the very top, Grace turned to him and whispered, "Looks like you're not alone this Christmas." He smiled, his eyes glistening. "No," he said quietly. "I'm finally home." Snow began to fall outside, painting the world in white. Ethan looked out the window and thought of Lily and Emma. Not with pain this time, but with peace. He knew, wherever they were, they'd be smiling too. That night, as Lucas drifted off to sleep on the couch, Ethan and Grace sat together by the fire. "You know," Grace said softly, "I think Christmas doesn't really end. It just waits for the right moment to return." Ethan nodded, his hand finding hers again. "Then I'm glad it found us." And for the first time in 10 long years, Ethan Cross didn't wait alone. He didn't wait at all, because Christmas had finally come home. And that, dear friends, is how one man's loneliness turned into love, and how a single mom's kindness rebuilt a heart that had forgotten how to beat. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. Every click helps us share more tales of faith, love, and second chances with the world. Because here, every story reminds you, there's always hope.